Don't you dare forget who you are. Don't let your challenges, don't let your fears, don't let your doubts, don't let someone else distract you from who you really are. If you don't know who that is, go back, just keep kind of going back to but what would I be? Who could I be?
Heather Mays, welcome to Passion Harvest. I've already got a smile on my face and I can't wait for our conversation today. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Luisa. I am beyond delighted to be here. And I think it's going to be a great conversation that we create together today. So I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Well, let's dive in. Let's get started. I'd love to start with your shared death experience for the audience and for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my, I guess, introduction into all things spiritual, not to sound too dramatic or oversell it, but for me, started at a very young age. I had a sister who had severe cerebral palsy, and because she required such full-time care, she lived in a care facility away from the home from us. And I was around 6 years old, she was 9. I didn't know anything other than my parents got a phone call and got called away, and I got shuffled off to a neighbor's house for the evening. And while I was sleeping, I had a beautiful dream visitation from my sister, who, again, unbeknownst to me at the time, was transitioning. And she showed me all that she was going through as a soul. And it was this most beautiful expansion. So if you can imagine having a physical disability for her in a human body, lots of limitation. Everything felt very compressed, very heavy. She was nonverbal, really had no mobility whatsoever. But in this version of her that came to me in the dream, she was large and free and felt so expansive and showed me all the beautiful colors that she was witnessing. And as we continued along this kind of journey together, the way she explained what was happening was also beautiful because it's kind of how you may explain it to a child, which I was at the time. But she showed me these beautiful mountains made of color. I don't know if you've seen the movie What Dreams May Come. But there's a lot of imagery in there that's related to just vibrant color and paint and textures. It looked a lot like that, but these mountains made out of color and texture and paint. And so myself, and my parents were journeying up a mountain. And at one point in the experience, one parent jumped across to another peak, a different mountain. The second parent jumped across. Then I jumped across in the dream. And when my sister went to make her jump, instead of landing where we had landed, she showed these huge wings came out and she soared like down this valley of all this color. And I knew, I don't know, instinctively, intuitively, or because that's just how it was presented, that that was her new form. That was where she was going. She was on a voyage, and there was absolutely no fear with it. There was no sadness. I didn't know grief as a child. I would have no frame of reference for that. It just to me felt like an upgrade. It felt like, oh wow, that's who we are. That's what's more authentic. And it was just this beautiful way to witness it. And then I also experienced, before I woke up, my team of guides who I didn't know that everyone didn't have them as a kid. That was just kind of my experience. But they kind of let me know not to not to wake them up and be like, Mom, Dad, I saw this amazing thing, because it was part of their journey to need to tell me what had happened. So it was this weird kind of grown up awareness of, this is what you've witnessed. This is what, even though you're a kid, this is what you need to navigate through this situation with others, because it's part of their journey to tell you. And so that was the shared death experience that, oh, I guess my first shared death experience. And now, many, many, many years later, I've walked across the veil with several friends, family members, pets, clients as well. And it's just this beautiful experience. I'm so honored to witness and share. And yeah, I guess that's that in a nutshell, in a really long nutshell.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Heather. So there really is what we term as when the physical body dies, there is no death.
Exactly. No death. In fact, it is the phrase that I'm hearing now is it's a shedding of shackles. Like we're here and we're compressed and we're dense and we're heavy, and that's what we've chosen to experience. So no judgment in that. But when we break free of that structure, of that density, there's just this absolute unlimited abundance of self that we experience. And that's our natural state of being. And so it's also this kind of like, whoa, yeah, I made it. Kind of like when you've had a long day of work and you get home and you're like, whoa, thank goodness I got through that one. It's that feeling of like, ah, there I am. Okay, I'm back to me now.
Why do we keep coming back?
We like a challenge. We're kind of we're hardcore like that. I think especially those of us on the planet right now, we're kind of like the special ops or special forces because I mean every time period has its challenges. We have the increased maybe amplitude of having everything in our face 24/7. So even though things have been occurring, this is a new in our evolution where we bear witness to all of it, or we can choose to bear witness to all of it. But it's almost like we have this kind of Navy SEAL behind the scenes approach. I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring that unlimited version of me and I'm going to plant it right here in all of this density. And some of us remember that more than others, but I think that's part of our journey is that reawakening or remembering, putting the pieces of ourselves back together so that even amidst the density that we walk through, we can still be that unlimited version of us and bust through the paradigm and the density and all of the things.
Yes, I'm just sorry, I'm just processing all of that as you said that. I love your connection with your spirit guides, and you have an incredible connection. Do you mind talking a little bit about that with the audience?
No, not at all. And I'm glad. Thank you for recognizing it. And they are kind of laughing right now about the categorization of it being a wonderful relationship. Because there was a time where I kind of broke up with them, we'll say. But so as a kid, I just had this awareness of having these a presence of energy. And I motion here because that's kind of where I sensed it a lot of the times that it was almost like you would see a celebrity, and I'm not saying that about myself, but when you would see someone who has an entourage or a security detail, it just always felt like me plus some others. And it was completely normal. And I witnessed or observed things um, fully as myself and present. And then but just kind of knew that there were, it's going to sound creepy, there were watchers or there were other observers, almost like taking notes or bearing witness to something from a different angle, a different perspective. And then I would go to sleep and have this really cool, I can't always do it now as an adult. I wish that I could, but as a kid, I would go to this space in my dreams that looked like a movie theater, and I would see the events of the day on the movie screen in front of me. And I would be both in the audience, but I was able to walk into the screen as well and kind of look around and say, okay, if I had answered this differently in class, or if I had not done this thing or picked up this toy instead of that toy or not petted the stray dog, I wouldn't have got the scratch on my face or whatever it is. I could kind of try things on and do a different dress rehearsal. And it was with this feeling of not grading yourself or judging yourself, but just getting knowledge about, okay, cause and effect. This is how that happens in this reality, in this density that we were speaking about. And then I could also, and so the beings, the guides, the energies were there as well to kind of facilitate that and hold space for it and give me guidance, keep me on track, if you will, for that. And I then would also have a precognitive component often to the dreams where it would be kind of like, okay, that's what we did today. Let's look into the future. And with that, I would see scenes, same as I had seen the present day. So it would still be on the movie screen. And it could be benign things like a friend is going to ask you to sit at the lunch table or something. But there was also a particular instance where a family member who we were not close with and wasn't supposed to pick me up from school, I got the awareness or the precognitive hit, if you will, that this person was going to come try to cause a scene and take not for a bad purposes, more just for drama, but she shouldn't have shown up, and I had the awareness that she was coming. So the precognitive aspect was you're going to see the car, you're going to be outside on the playground, you're going to see the car. Here's what you can do. You can go get an adult, you can do this, you can, like, I had different options. And the farther away something was in the timeline, the dream would be kind of black and white. And I could almost insert different options into it. Like, okay, well, if I go to the adult, then what? If I go to the soccer field behind the school, then what would happen? And we could like play around and I don't almost like playing with like Barbies or something as a kid. And then the closer it came to actually happening on the reality timeline, the dream would be more vivid in color and there was less that could be adjusted or moved. So now as an adult, I would have had no idea of that as a kid, but as an adult, I see it now as almost like timelines. There were different probabilities that could have occurred, and I was able to witness them and see and try them on. And then as a soul, again, much more above my pay grade than a kid, I was able to say, okay, this is the one that's best for our growth, or this is the one that makes sense to intersect with at this time. So they worked with me a lot in dreams and in the real world, also having kind of intuitive pings, or it's kind of like having the peanut gallery as well. You know, if you it's just behind you yammering sometimes, go up to this person or um, call your friend and tell her not to. This was a specific instance. Tell her when she's coming home from the club on a certain night that there's going to be a white car that's following her. Do not pull over for the white car. So I would get kind of these cautions and these warnings for other people. And part of my development, I think, with that was learning how to deliver that kind of message to somebody because not everybody's okay hearing that. And so yeah, it was this kind of teamwork combination of I I never for a second have felt that I'm here by myself and they've just kind of been there. But there was a period of time, I said I broke up with them. There was a period of time where part of the precognitive dreams would also be intensely terrifying psychic dreams about car crashes people would be in or plane crashes and really, really vivid, really repetitive. Because again, I was seeing the early version and then what could potentially happen. So I would see the same thing in different iterations. And I started to not want to go to sleep at night because I didn't want to see those things and I didn't know how to turn it off. So I just said, I don't want it anymore, turn it down, dial down the volume. I don't want to see it. I want to be normal. I want to just go through my life as just me. And they respected that and stepped back a bit. Or you can have a couple of ways to look at that. I also stopped just paying attention to that aspect of myself, kind of like if the sensation I'm getting is like if your arm falls asleep or your hand falls asleep, I was just like, yeah, we're not doing that now. And in that span of time where I kind of turned that aspect of myself off or that connection off, that pathway, life, the universe came to remind me, hey, guess what? That's for you, not the best plan. I had multiple car accidents. I had a lawsuit. My apartment was robbed. I had breakup after breakup. Like the wheels came off. Everything just kind of did not work in life for me. And that's not saying that if I had had the team of guides, they could have prevented all of that. It's that part of me being me, Heather, in this physical lifetime is I'm supposed to do that because I connect with other people and I teach that now. And so when I turned that off, I turned off a big part of myself. So I was walking through the world really misaligned with who I was supposed to be. So that's my guides. That's my team.
Thank you. I mean, what an incredible connection and that the insights that you receive. Often, I was just thinking because often people think we're so separate or so alone, but we really, all of us, whether we're consciously aware of them or not, we do have teams and guides and perhaps
Yeah.
loved ones around us. In regards to the future, it's fascinating, the future premonitions.
Yeah.
Does it mean that the future's already set or it's tangible based on our choices?
Yeah. I think the second one, absolutely. It's tangible based on our choices and our free will. Plus, a whole host of other variables. So if you think of, I'm here, maybe I want to order dinner tonight and I have 12 different options, different restaurants I can choose from. I may really want the cheese fries or I may really want the tilapia, but I call the restaurant and they're out. So there was a potential that that was there, and that's what I connected to. But some other variable that I wasn't really in control of came into play. So I think there are multiple layers of complexity with it. And I'm sorry because now I'm hungry and I'm going to have to order lunch later because I've dredged all that up. But I think we have the ability to almost like a GPS kind of point ourselves in the direction of something. And then that's another good analogy too. If you're driving on a highway, you think you're going to go to a certain destination, but maybe there's construction or there's an accident in front of you, or you get detoured. You can still end up at that destination, but maybe you took a little different path. So I think the souls that we come into the world with, whether that's consciously kind of our family group, our friend group, our peers, the people we connect with in life, they all have their timelines and we're all woven together in this tapestry. So they may have a variability on theirs that connects with yours. And so together you build this kind of thread of future probability. But also, we don't know. It could be the person you smile at the store. It could be the person who cuts you off in traffic. They are all having their own journeys and lessons and timelines. And so we're all interconnected in that way, kind of like a big spider web where you dangle or you have the pulsation over here and it affects something over here as well. But I think there's absolutely, I don't think we're locked in. Like it will always unfold this way. I think we have a blueprint and we say, yeah, I'd really like to learn this. Almost like when you go to college or university, I think I'd like to study to become an engineer. So I'm going to take this course and this course and this course. But you get there and you say, oh, hey, that art course I had to take, that was kind of fun. So there are other things that can drop in that are still part of the larger plan for us.
Thank you. People often talk about soul paths or our soul plan that we planned before this life. Do you think the major events, I don't like the word, but set in stone, or the major events are there for us in this life?
I think they are kind of like pillars um, that are supporting the overall lifetime or pathway for us. But there are, the way I'm seeing it is there are many of them. So if you think of like a skyscraper where there's all this structure and floor after floor after floor being built, I think we have the structure. But if one little thing wobbles or falls out of place, it's okay because we have the others that can kind of compensate. But I think we really have our almost like an actor or a dancer. We have our marks that we want to hit. Um, I want to learn about unconditional love. I want to learn about loss. I want to learn about physical health. We have kind of the themes. And I feel if there is a really significant event that really puts that in place for us, and again, our soul group, the people we're here with, they also have that probability or their timelines lead to that as well, then that is kind of set in stone. So I see them almost as like there's different weighted versions. There's the events that, yeah, I really, as a soul, I was pretty much supposed to have that happen. The way it happened may shift a little bit, but the lesson is the thing that I feel is more set in stone. I don't know if you have that same kind
Mhm.
of awareness or
Yes, and also
familiarity with.
perhaps the way I reacted to it
Oh, yes,
or
yes.
responded to it.
Completely.
So,
Yeah.
your guides, how do they communicate with you?
Many, many different ways. So primarily it is clairaudient. I hear them. But there are different layers, and as I've gone through my life up to this point, different aspects of how they communicate, they've changed. So I also feel things very clairsentiently, um, almost instantaneously. And I think many of us do that without the awareness of it. We pick up, and maybe not from a guide, but we may pick up on someone's bad mood or we pick up on someone's physical ailment because there's that field of energy that we're
Mm.
imbued with and walking through. And so even though they are in not this third dimensional reality, we're still connected in that field. So I will feel something really quickly. I also get visual cues. You see me looking over here. That's kind of where my line of sight goes to see different things. Um, and then my one of my favorites that I think is a great way for people to start the journey of connecting is synchronicities or things in the physical world that are perhaps put in front of your awareness to reaffirm or confirm something that you are seeking an answer for. So I get that quite frequently. And if you have time for it, I can tell a kind of a fun story about,
Yes, please go
yeah.
ahead.
So I said I had broken up with them in the relationship, and then I realized this is not going well. I'm not doing human the way I think I'm supposed to do human. So let me get back in touch. And it wasn't like flipping a switch on and they came back. It they made me work for it, rightly so, because again, this is something that I work with now, people work with for coaching. But one of the ways that I first started to know they were back. So with my purest intention that I really want to connect with that again, my friends, my team, my guides, whatever phrase I used for it at the time, and started to have the first sign was dreams where I would maybe see numbers in the dream, but very specifically and very repetitively. And then the next day I would see that same sequence of numbers on a sign or on a receipt. And I started to realize, oh, you're coming to me here and it's coming out this side. So we're working on kind of like a mic check, like check one, is this on? We were building that connection again. And I thought, okay. And after many months of doing that, or it might be like an entire conversation I would bear witness to in a dream and then it would happen in the real world. So many months of practicing that, and I got home from work one day, and this was back before we had phones that we carried with us all the time. And so I went to check my voicemail, and the number reflected on the machine said zero. So I thought, oh, nobody called. I don't have anything. But when I picked up the phone to call a friend, I had a sequential beeping, which at the time for that particular system meant you have a message. And I thought, okay, it's weird. It says zero, but that says I have a message. So already my spidey sense is like, what's weird? And I called the voicemail box, and it was this almost freaky, disembodied sounding voice that was very distressed, just said, help me. And it kind of whispered and it was gravelly and it freaked me out. And I think I probably threw the phone like on like away from me because it was strange. But I was getting used to following clues that felt out of place. So I thought, well, at the very least, this is a gentleman who thought he was calling someone he knew. And I want to, I don't know why. I want to call the weird ghost voice back and say, you got the wrong number. Maybe can you try someone else? So I call the number back, thinking I'm going to have this weird conversation. And it is only an outgoing message from his voicemail, that and totally different voice now, not scary. It wouldn't have gotten my attention on any normal day, but it wasn't, hey, it's Bob, leave a message or anything like that. It was just the quote, for he shall give his angels charge over thee and keep thee in all thy ways. Psalm 91:11. And I thought, oh, angels, guides, got it. Because the angelic realm had always been kind of part of the team. So now I'm laughing and I think, okay, they must really need to make things obvious for me because I guess I don't get the subtleties anymore. And then I started thinking, well, this is kind of fun. I'm going to call it back. And anytime over the next week or so, I would call. It was always the outgoing message. No one ever picked up. It was never you, and you could never leave a message. Usually you would say, hey, leave a message after the tone. There was no tone. It was just this message. And so I started to ask my friends, hey, call this number. They would call and it would just ring. They would never get the message. So then I found myself doodling like 9111, or I would go out and see 9111 on a sign or 9111 on a receipt. And over the course of many, many weeks, I would, for some reason, have the ability to go into like a bookstore or a library, pick any book on any topic, open it, and there would be a 9111 somewhere on the page. It kind of became like a circus act. Like I'd be like, hey, come here, let's do this right now. Let's do it. One point I was driving down the road and there was a book open in the middle of this street. It wasn't a busy road. And, I'm driving by at a good clip. And I said, oh, I bet I'm supposed to go look at that book. Because the other thing I started to notice was things I was supposed to pay attention to that were of the ethereal message realm would have kind of a glow around them, or they would feel more magnetic. They would somehow stand out from everything else around them. And so this book had this kind of like glow or hum, very Harry Potter looking. And so I drove and turned around to come back. And in the middle of this road, in the middle of nowhere, picked the book up, 9111 on the page. So we switched it back on dramatically. It took a while and it took a little bit of work, but it really is the dedication to it and the following the clues. And when you start doing that, it can be really kind of this fun adventure that you get taken on that expands your mind, similar to what we were saying about crossing over and having this absolute like, oh, I'm so much bigger than the physical body. Oh, I can connect to so much more than just what's in this room, what's in this house, what's in this neighborhood, what's in this world or planet. It really is so immense and unlimited, and it gets to be really fun to connect into all of that.
Well, they're incredible coincidences, synchronicities. That was amazing. What's your
Mhm.
advice for the audience to connect with angels or spirit guides for those that are struggling to have incredible signs like you, or really wanting to have guidance and their team to support
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And would love to hear your thoughts too and what you see and help people with as well. I think for me, one of the kind of entrees into that for people is seeing it as a relationship, seeing it as because a lot of times we will show up and say, and I just got this email the other day where somebody said, I urgently need my guides. Okay. Well, if you were in an actual relationship with someone and you just had that like demand, oh, I need it right now. That's not a really healthy one-on-one relationship. So building that and saying, because, and I say it that way, because they are beings learning from the spirit realm as well. They are on task. It's their job. They're learning how to guide someone just like you're learning how to be guided. It's this two-way street. So showing up not with the expectation that I need enlightenment, I need it now, and it needs to come from you or look in this certain way, putting no expectation on it, having an aspect or an air of curiosity to it, and then seeing it as okay, I'm going to show up. I'm going to be devotional about it. I'm going to show up for this relationship, whether I say I want to meet you in my dreams and I set that intention every night, or I want to meet you in meditation and here's this special way that I get there. And for 5 minutes every day, I'm open. Call me, kind of like that. But then sticking to that and having that structure for yourself where you are then doing a couple of things. You're honoring the connection, but you're also setting your frequency and kind of setting your space that then allows you to witness that communication. And I would also say any way that you can work on developing those clair senses. So the clairaudience, the clairvoyance, because intuitive guidance, whether it is from without you or from your higher self, and that's another thing is hire us, part of our team of guides. Yes, no, all of that. We can talk about that if you want, but intuition is always the whisper, not the shout. So if you're waiting for, and I know mine were dramatic, but I think that's because I get to come and talk about them. I have like the best job in the world where I can tell those stories to say this is what's possible. But we didn't get there. Like I didn't start there. You work up to that. So being open to the synchronicities, being open to, I think a lot of times too, we dismiss things like, oh no, I just made that up. So, but what if you didn't? What if that was guidance coming to you? So, just having this absolute openness, a playfulness to it, and abandoning any of your expectations, and then developing all your faculties through which intuition and messages can come through. What did I miss? Louisa, what do you got? What's on your list for that?
No, that was perfect. I mean, it's perfect, like anything, like anyone. It's you just don't walk up to someone and say, someone on the street and say, let's be best friends. It just doesn't work like that. You have to
Right.
establish a
Yeah.
relationship, a rapport.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I guess, as you said, very importantly, we sometimes dismiss things. People often, and I'll talk about it in a minute, you're a medium and a psychic, but we often dismiss that as just, as you said, it's that was nothing. It didn't mean anything. I'm going crazy. I'm making things up.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's again, as you said, it's subtle. It's
Hmm.
not like having a conversation. It's not like a lightning bolt is going to strike a book or something and make it that obvious. Unfortunately, well, I wouldn't say unfortunately, but that's how it works.
Yes. And I think I just had this vision of could you imagine if we did live in that world and we're all walking around like, wait, what? What's over there? What's over like I think there's a reason the mechanism works the way it does. Um, but it also helps us strengthen. I kind of see it like a rope climbing, where you climb up the knots and maybe you're strong enough to get up the first couple and then you slide back down and then you strengthen and you can climb farther up. So it's helping us build our capacity the more we work with something as well. So the more we are in that space of devotion and development, the more we're able to access as well. And I'll share this visual that my team likes to share often if it helps anybody kind of envision the relationship. So I feel like, and when you asked, why do we keep coming here? So I view it almost as like a soccer pitch or a football field. And we're the players on the field. Our guides are in a couple of different spots, depending on we'll say the realm or the plane they're in or their function. So they may be the coaches on the sideline. They may be the kind of, owners of the team or the higher ups who are in the skybox. So all of us, we have our own perspective. Oh, that's right in front of me. I've got to run around this person to get the ball over here. The coach can see from their perspective a little differently. The skybox individuals can see top down. Oh, if you run here, you're going to hit this over there. And it takes all of that to, be successful and to move things through. So it's not one is better than the other either. I think a lot of times we fall into that trap that, oh, the divine guidance is so much better or they're more evolved. And my team has been incredibly humble and clear to say we're just different. We're not better. We're just different. We're in a different frequency or we're in a different place in our journey. But it's no like they also often feel that we are the kind of rock stars because like you said, why do we keep coming here? It's so challenging and difficult. We take on the hard task. And if we go back to our game analogy, we're the ones getting tackled or hit or, we're in there where we can get scuffed and bruised and marked up. So, yeah, I think if that perspective helps anybody, that sometimes unlocks things a little bit. And then you can say, okay, if I'm the quarterback, it's a football game. What am I going to do? I have the ability to call the play myself and do what I see. Or I can listen to the little thing in my helmet, or I can go over to the sideline and get some help and then make adjustments. So, yeah.
Hmm. I agree. Sometimes it's just nice to say, "Oh my God." Well, it's not nice to say, "Oh my God, I have to make the decision." Can't you just make it for me?
I know. Right? Yeah. You see what's coming more than I can. Can you yeah, help me out a little? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now you're a psychic and a medium as well.
Yes. Yes. I talk to dead people. I see dead people. I think that got unlocked with my shared death experience. So
Mhm.
there's never not been a time that I can bear witness to spirit. Now I've worked with it and molded it and studied for many years and developed it to where I'm doing it at my request in my timeline. But for a while, it would be the odd dream or someone showing up, spirit showing up. I need to be clear on who the someone was. A spirit showing up in a dream state and conveying a message, or even in the waking state. But again, that's that unlimited nature of we aren't boxed in this dimension. It's permeable, it's fluid. We can have this access to beings and those who are not present as well. So I think, for me, it's just a different, people often ask, how do you know it's a spirit versus a guide? There's kind of a different quality or texture of the energy. Yeah, that's when my team was like, you need to make that clear. So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll answer the question you didn't even have, Luis. But yeah, and so it gives me this beautiful perspective, I think, in the continuity of it all and the unlimited nature of not just who we are, but of life, of the journey of evolution, revolution, spirituality, ascension, all of it. It's just this dance of beautiful exchanges of energy and love and unlimited possibilities. So much more than we know. Like so much more than we know, really.
So, for those that you communicate with that have transitioned from the physical form, do you converse with them about life in the afterlife and what's it like?
I have on occasion been shown that. And it depends for each individual. I think it's highly customizable as an experience. So some will have jobs. My sister, for instance, one of the things that she did long before I was really doing anything artistic myself, she conveyed that she paints the sunsets on other planets. And I wouldn't have come up
Ah.
with that myself. I like who knew that was a job. So there can also be spirits who are, welcomers of others who transition or in a counseling capacity for those who may transition with trauma associated. But a soul may also just be over there and say, I liked to fish. I like to go fishing. I'm just going to recreate that for myself. They may choose to continue learning. We come here. This is the best classroom of all, but we can still continue to learn after we transition. And so they may take up opera or art or go to different events like we would think going to a concert or something like that. So it's customizable and unlimited as well. And then communicating with one another is in its purest form of heart to heart telepathy, where I have the thought and I'm connected and there's no artifice, there's no um, need to kind of have vulnerability or protect anything because someone is going to know who you are just on that note of your frequency alone. So it's that different way of communicating in that. Yeah, I'm just asking, is there anything else they want to convey? Hmm, not on that question. Yeah.
Thank you. And you're
Mhm.
a psychic, well, not as well. It's included in your repertoire. What do you do with your psychic abilities?
I would
Which,
say one of,
sorry to interrupt, but which is
oh, sure.
encompassing everything we're talking about, really. But
Exactly, exactly. So that's what like I think we lack, but it's evolving. We're getting there. We like many years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago in the spiritual space, there was this delineation between I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever. And psychic for a lot of people has a different meaning. It could just be I can connect into all different avenues of information. And that's kind of how I've come to uh, experience it or talk about it. I think there are then the specific aspects of mediumship. That's kind of a different element of it. But one of the ways that I think I probably use the psychic part most is with like monthly energy forecasts that I do or connecting in with people in a coaching capacity to say, okay, what's coming up next for me? And like we talked about earlier, it's not and it's set in stone. It's here are the different avenues that are probable or possible or the different kind of roads I could take and what might be down each one for me. And we can kind of walk down that, try it on, see if it's preferred or not preferred, and then see, okay, what do I maybe need to tweak so that I don't go down that path because I didn't really like what it feels like might be there. So it's in kind of a consultative capacity that I use it. Um, yeah, and then like you said, it's kind of the underpinning or the foundation for everything else as well. Because it depends on the definition of that.
yes, everyone has a different idea of what it
Hmm.
means. You
Hmm.
spoke about your channel. Where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I have a YouTube channel. It's just under my name, Heather Mays, and then my website, heathermays.com as well. Those are probably the best.
Mhm.
And then, from there, jump off onto social media if anyone's on that as
I'm
well.
sure there's links. Now, you
Yeah.
offer channeled messages for humanity.
That sounds so like when you said that, I was like, I do. Yeah. I I'm generally doing it about once a week now, or a couple of times a week. But my team of guides will just kind of pass on a little message like, hey, go talk about this. And I connect into them in a channeled state and bring through their messages. And it's just different topics from time to time. It started when I wrote my first book, Hey Radiant Souls, which was the result or the end product of me being woken up routinely for a number of months with my team saying, hey, Radiant Soul, what about this? And it would just be this really random topic. And I would see an image and I didn't know what they meant. It was kind of like being handed a thumb drive or a zip drive. There was a lot of information in there, but I just got like the title and I thought, what the heck do you want me to do with all of that? And then throughout like the next day or two, it would all kind of dissolve or soften, kind of like a bath bomb. You put it in and
Mm.
then it expands. And I would say, oh, that's really interesting, something to share with somebody. And so that's kind of where that piece started because I knew those weren't messages specifically for me, although I certainly benefited from them. They were meant to go out from me into the world. So I kind of over the past few years have developed that into channeled message videos that I share with people. So on just different topics or exploring things in the world in general. And I guess the overall aim or color or temperature of those is kind of like a hang in there. Like we've got this more than we're led to believe. Because I think what's reflected to us in the world is limitation and constriction and definition and delineation and it's that compression. So to bump up against that and remember how unlimited we are and what our potentiality and potential is as a soul here in a human body. Yeah.
Which probably segues through into my next question, and you talk about this a
Yeah.
lot. How can we shine our light?
Yeah. For me, what I feel is at least the starting off point, but maybe the biggest ingredient in that soup is finding, claiming, and actively pursuing our authentic self. So we live in a world that likes to put definitions on us and put us in a box and you're this or you're that and we're defined by that. But the more we can tap into, I call it the ooey gooey center, tap into that heart space. And that's why I'm so excited to connect with you because tap into that passion. What is it? What is it that lights you up? What is it that no matter what anybody says about you or to you, you always come back to and say, nah, that's me. You say what you will, but I have a sense of humor, or say what you will, but I'm going to go dance in the forest. Whatever it is for you, that's the kernel and the key, and that's your authentic frequency. And when you can slide into that, you're in alignment with that field, with all of creation, with the unlimited nature of the universe, and you resound this beautiful vibration of your authenticity, which built into that is our light. So I think the more we nurture that, almost like this little tiny flame, and sometimes people will come and blow that flame out or stomp on it or throw it into the dirt, but it's up to us to excavate and say, okay, I just had this trauma come up and now I don't remember who I am anymore, or I had this event happen, or I had a fight with the boyfriend or whatever it is, always going back to that. But where's my spark? Where did I leave it? It kind of like when you leave the car keys. Are they in the couch? Are they by the door? Where did I leave me? Go back and reclaim that bit of yourself. And then that's how we shine. And witnessing it in each other when we see it. I think reinforcing that is important.
Absolutely agree. It reminds me of that Dr. Zeus quote. There's no one that's youer than you.
Oh,
I love
I
that.
love that. Yeah,
I love that
absolutely.
quote.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm just getting well, I'm not saying getting messages, but for people who might be watching this to say, oh, I've got no passion, I've got no joy. Where can I find that spark? I've completely lost
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and we do. I think that's part of the human journey too.
Mm.
So, the first feeling I get from that is don't get yourself stuck in a rut with that. The I don't know, I'm lost. See that as, oh, where could I go? What could that be? Like have that spark of curiosity about it and exploration and go back to like almost deconstruct. If I didn't need to do something for someone else, if I didn't need to exist in the way that someone else sees me, what would I be? And if you don't know, come back to that question because I think we almost get ourselves misaligned with that, thinking that the the thing needs to be the profession or that the thing needs to be this huge, like up on a billboard. Heather is a whatever. It's just the like what sparks you on that day, what lights you up. And that may in and of itself be a clue to something bigger. Like you may not get the big answer. Kind of like when we would take tests in school, turn to the back of the book and you get the answer. We don't always get that, but we may get the little hint like, hey, try answer C instead of B. So following that preference. And I think we get out of our comfort zone sometimes with because it feels selfish or we're taught that it feels selfish to follow your bliss or follow your dream, or it just sounds like this pie in the sky thing. But it doesn't have to be that big. It can be, yeah, I think I want to take my shoes off and go walk in the backyard today. And if that's what makes you happy in that moment, that's one of the clues of who you are. Maybe the rest of the definition starts to fill itself in. But if you don't answer that particular call and go do that, you're not going to connect to the rest of it. So it's kind of like um, a puzzle to put together for ourselves as well sometimes.
Yes, thank you. Following the little breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you so much. I'd love to move on to your amazing artwork, your
Oh,
energetic
thanks.
portraits.
Thank you. Yeah, I think to answer the question of how do I use the psychic when I wear my psychic hat as opposed to my other hats, I guess the art would be part of that as well. Um, as I was hearing more and more from my guides related to writing my book, what also came in, I mentioned it really briefly, were these images. And for the book, it was like a meme or like a little drawing that represented the image. But what they told me is as I was, and I have to say, I had put here's another passion breadcrumb. I had put the call out to the universe. I want to do art again because I used to doodle as a kid. I don't know if they had these in Australia, the spirograph, where you would have like the little plastic geometric shapes and you would put a pen in and you could make all these different shapes and things. And I would
Yes,
color.
yes.
Yes. And I used to just love that. And I did calligraphy and just anything that looked different. And I sketched in charcoal. And then life happened and I got the corporate job and the 9 to 5 and I just I wasn't doing art anymore. So many years ago, I put the call out and said, hey, I want to do art again because that lit me up and I miss that part of me. But if I do it, I like, what do I do with it? I don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. I would love to help somebody with it or love to put it out in a way that somebody else gets something from it. So there's that reciprocity. But I had no definition or expectation of what that would be. And part of my working through the book, I think, was getting my wiring working on even doing anything artistic at all again, because it had really been gummed up and, and shut down for a while. And I just started learning specifically digital art applications for the purpose of the book. But in my spare time to just try them out, I would just start these weird doodles and they came out with these colors and shapes. And then as I was in there, I realized, oh, I'm not fully present here. I'm kind of in a channeled state or like a trance state. And I would just be sketching kind of, it would come through me, or I would have this sensation of it needs this shape or it needs this color. Or what happened more often, because I'm stubborn and human, and I would hear that it needs this shape or this color, but do something else that I wanted. And then the app would crash or it would erase what I just did. And I'm like, I have no control over this. I should probably just be in the flow state and go with it. So played around with that and got the feeling that what I was drawing represented a person. And I have the best friends in the world because I come to them with weird stuff all the time. So I would go to my friends and say, do you mind if I don't know what I'm doing, but do you mind if I connect to your energy and see what comes through? So I would play around with that and show them, and they would say, yeah, what does it mean? Like, I don't know. Give me a minute, we'll figure it out. But when I started to really put pieces together was I would have 5 or 6 of them with a friend group and show them someone else's without saying who it was, and they would know, oh, that's Ryan. Oh, that's Caroline. Oh, that's Jenna. And I thought, oh, okay, there's something baked in here that is like the frequency or the representation of a person. So from there, I worked and spent much more time developing it and figuring out what it really was and how it was supposed to work. And now it's something that I offer my clients where I connect to their energy telepathically. We don't meet over Zoom or video or anything or phone, and pull through this geometric colored representation of their soul in this moment. So the feeling I get from that is, or what I've been shown from my guides, is that this is more who we are as we move along our spiritual journey, if we want to call it ascension or 5D. Another one of those things everybody has their own definition for. But rather than wearing a name tag that says, hello, my name is Heather, we're this blend of geometry and color, and not just what we see in the two-dimensional art, but what we feel from it. So baked into this art are frequencies, healings, things kind of that are coming through and being placed in here in a frequency capacity that I'm not really conscious of, but come through. And so then that's part of it too. And so frequently people will say, like I got some really good emails one time where like a lot of them were saying, I walk through the world and I have a really tough day and I look at my portrait and I remember who I am. It's
Oh,
like
that's
this
so beautiful.
isn't it? It's this remembering of, oh, I'm unlimited. That's right. I forgot. So it's this way to come back and reconnect to yourself. And often people will see like evidence of sometimes, and I don't do this, but sometimes they'll see like their spirit family members who have crossed over almost in the art somehow, like they'll see a face or they'll see some kind of something that represents something for them very specifically. And so it's like all of these codes kind of encapsulated in this art in this way. So I don't know if that was kind of a weird, long-winded explanation,
No,
but
perfect,
yeah,
perfect. And any creativity, however, whatever form it takes, is wonderful.
yeah.
Heather Mays, I've loved having you on Passion Harvest. Is there anything else you'd like to share today with the
Mm.
Harvest audience? I can't even talk now. Or your guides, either or.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy and the time flew by for sure. But to the audience and community, thank you for spending some time and witnessing the conversation and being present with us. And I think I'm getting really warm and flushed. So the guides definitely have something to say for sure. It's that it's going to sound like an admonition or a lecture, but don't you dare forget who you are. Like don't let your challenges, don't let your fears, don't let your doubts, don't let someone else distract you from who you really are. And like you said, if you don't know who that is, go back, just keep kind of going back to but what would I be? Who could I be? And look at the possibility and the potential. And they're also saying, dream bigger than you ever thought you could, because we're coming into this period of time where not just our personal vibrations and frequencies, but also in the collective, like in the atmosphere, in the energetics of our planet, we're getting this beautiful opportunity for amplifying and magnifying things that we are choosing. So choose wisely and dream bigger, and just the absolute stunning, beautiful radiance that each and every one of you carries within you. Nurture that flame.
Yeah, I feel like clapping. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Woo!
Heather Mays, thank you so much for being
Yeah.
on Passion Harvest. Really, really my
Yeah.
pleasure.
Thank you so much. Pleasure's all mine for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.